Hey, it's Kellen.
Tyson here.
And of course they are.
This is Diversified Game.
And today we're going to give game on a wrestler who was forced to cut his dreadlocks only 90 seconds before he was supposed to take the floor.
This is Diversified Game.
A podcast giving entrepreneurial advice from a diverse and inclusive perspective with Kellen.
He may agree, he may oppose, and it's more than just race, it's about, ideas.
Tyson.
When you're going against the odds, you've got to be creative, you've got to innovate, you've got to stand out.
And AL.
Focus more on execution and application and less on excuses.
So, let the game begin.
Yeah, it's wow. All I can say is wow. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So let me start this off by going. The latest on this situation was his parents released a statement through their lawyer about the incident. And so I'll read the statement really quickly for you guys about Andrew Johnson from his parents. His parents are Charles and Rosa Johnson. Out of New Jersey. I believe it's Buena, New Jersey. So this is the statement. It says, wrestling has taught Andrew to be resilient in the face of adversity. As we move forward, we are comforted by both the strength of Andrew's character and the support he's received from the community. We will do all that we can to make sure that no student athlete is forced to endure what Andrew experienced. And so just so we're clear, it seems like Johnson happens to be a mixed, by the way, though obviously identifying closely with the Black community. And the referee was a white male who apparently had previous cases of racism where he called another referee the N-word.
Wow.
Yeah. So so in this particular case, I guess the question is, do we feel this is racially driven? Do we know this is racially driven? How do we feel about the parents' statement and about the coaches in school and things like that? Which, by the way, the parents are fully 100% supporting his school, which is Buena Regional High School. So, I guess nothing bad there since the parents are supporting them 100%, saying, they made the right decision that their son wanted them to make because it was ultimately his choice whether or not to do it. So they were acting on his accord of what the referee had told him he had to do. So,
like, I get it. I totally get it. I commend the parents for taking the high road, and while there are a plethora of certain hygiene issues associated with wrestling that they are very mindful and conscientious of.
mm-hmm.
The young man had been wrestling the whole season. Like, why is this an issue now?
Right.
I mean, this is to attack the obvious thing,
Right.
And the second obvious thing is this referee has had an issue with some racial stuff previously. Nobody jumped in. There's nobody that governs the entire wrestling event and say, hey, is this okay, or why is this not okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, I mean, I'll say so far the referee has not come forward to say anything. Which the referee's name is Alan Maloney, and I'm gonna refrain, but not refrain from making the joke about Maloney baloney. So we're dealing with this Maloney baloney right now.
No, for sure.
And figuring out what exactly was the reasoning behind why he made Johnson cut. Not made. He gave him an ultimatum: either you cut it or you don't wrestle and you forfeit the match. Which is taking away. Obviously, he won, so you would have taken away a victory from him had the student athlete not decided to just go ahead, bite the bullet, and really just show him, you're not going to stop me from shining, type of thing. So, what's I want to know. I really just want to hear from him. What was his reasoning behind it? But it seems like he's been told to keep his mouth shut.
Well, there's probably something in the rules that he pulled out from the book that no one's probably read forever, the whole season, and that says, your hair has to be this length, and if it's in the rules, okay, there, I guess there's really no nothing that can be done if it's in the rules,
right?
But we really need to be able to validate that, and I saw this first on the Advice show, and I was like, wow, can you believe it? But we know that dreadlocks are feared. I'm surprised so many guys in the NFL can have dreadlocks. Some, how guys in the NBA can have dreadlocks because,
that's the fear factor working in their advantage, though, in that regard.
Yeah.
You want, they want you to look a little bit fearsome, and play that psychological game with the competition. And to the school's defense, they supported him with dreads, right? They didn't tell him he had to cut them or anything like that. It was the referee. So maybe the school semi was like, yo, that's cool. He has dreads, because that does give that slight, psychological edge that the connotation of dreads seems to give in our society, even though it doesn't mean that. But they probably were okay with it, and then the ref was like, no, I'm not okay with that, though.
And it's crazy that we're talking about this. I think the last, I'm sure that there's so many different instances and events where hair is an issue, but the last big one that kind of stands out to me. And I remember actually watching this while it was being aired. I'm not sure which award show it was, but there was an award show. There was a supplemental show that did coverage for a major award show. And one of the, we're not going to drop any names. People may remember this, but I'm just kind of shining some light on this situation.
Brushing it over, yeah.
One of the panelists or the hosts of the show, thought it was okay in a joking manner to, say an off color joke about a young lady. I'm not sure if she is mixed, but no, she had her hairstyle and dreads, and she immediately paired the dreading of her hair to another culture and combined that culture with drugs, and thought it was cool,
right.
Thought it was funny. And I remember the entire panel's response.
And it was mal care of hair,
yes.
dirty as well.
Yes.
What, no bueno.
No, absolutely. And I remember everybody's response. It was a haymaker for everybody. Everybody was blindsided. I remember him going right to commercial after that. It was just so ridiculous. How is it okay to, and again, to Kel's point, unless there's something in the rule book that that people have just overlooked, this shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe that's why the family is so kind of I would say passive, because if this, you got so many boys with dreads, and I know this is in racist New Jersey, where there wasn't enough of us to really come together. Like Martin said, when one of us come and say, do you have something in the aisle, the toothpaste? Can't you read? Toothpaste. But when it's a gang of us, they act different, because if this was a predominantly black area, Maloney would have been ran out. We just would not have had it. And I know the boy is, he's mixed, and maybe his mother was there, but a black mother 9 out of 10 times isn't going to let you touch her son's hair. Forget his choice. We pay for his hair. That's our property. You can stop acting like you own something and you control something. And who knows? I didn't see his father, who on this news report is a black guy, and he has some siblings. But and who maybe he was up for scholarships, and who knows, and it's just hair at the end of the day. NDRE, I am not my hair, but it's the
Right.
principle that you think you can control something in 2018. And if it was my children, nobody can touch their hair unless the parents say so, or we're gonna
Right.
come cut your hair, our head off. Don't,
Mhm.
don't, an eye for an eye. I'm Old Testament with this. So because there can be a lot, we don't know the meaning, we don't know, but at the end of the day, young boy, he can grow his hair back, but it's that they don't run us, and they always pick the right one. You ever notice, when they're in
Yeah.
those situations, they don't pick the person who's really gonna buck back and give them the business.
Yeah.
They know
Well,
who to pick.
yeah. I mean, also, what I will say about this situation is, it was one of those high pressure decisions because, as I was reading more about this topic, they were supposed to say something at weigh-ins. Like, if there was any issues, they were supposed to say something at weigh-ins, and nothing was said at weigh-ins. And I guess it was documented that the referee Alan Maloney was actually late to weigh-ins and didn't say anything then. So he was late, not on his job as he should have been, which happens from time to time. So I'm not gonna knock him. But then you come at the meet, at the actual match, and a minute and a half, you got to make a split second decision, which they only gave him that minute and a half because that would have been an injury timeout in wrestling. So it wasn't like a courtesy. It wasn't like it was like, oh no, I'm going to take away your injury timeout. So in case he got injured in the match, he would have burned his injury timeout. So even then, it's like you waited and gave him 90 seconds to make a decision on something that he had obviously been growing for some time, and that he had an attachment to, and that was part of his identity. And in 90 seconds, you're like, you either lose or you cut your hair. It's your choice, but this is what's about to go down. And as a student athlete who probably values his schooling just as much as his athletics, you probably know what decision he's going to make. When it comes down to it, thinking about his future scholarships and things of that nature, if that's the route he's going. It's like it's an unfair position to put someone in under split second pressure like that, and really no notice. And the way that they did it was kind of dehumanizing in a way, because they had to use scissors in public on his head, not the decency of going to the barber, getting it lined up, getting it looking right, if he was going to make that decision and say, all right, fine, all right, you guys let me know at weigh-ins, it's not okay, I'll go to the barber shop and get it taken care of. They literally just snipped his hair with scissors, and he went out there kind of uneven, all that stuff, because the referee said it had to be cut to his liking. So he watched them cut his hair and told them when enough was enough. Like, how dehumanizing, when you think about it, is that in a public setting?
Yeah, and this is a public school, right?
I am not sure if it was a public school, but so I don't want to misquote that. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna say, y'all look for it, research it yourselves, on that regard. I'm not sure whether it's public or private.
Okay. No, that's interesting. And when more facts come out, we shall see. We're not above, even having that young man come on and talk, or his
Right.
parents come on and
Absolutely.
talk. I can hear some elders say the boy's hair shouldn't be that long anyway. Does nature not itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, and just going on and on about, like, come on, man, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a boy who his parents said it was okay, the school said it was okay, and one man, a referee, and that nobody could check or override this referee. Like, next he could say, I need to frisk you in the back. I mean, where does it end?
Right.
So And let me see. There's something in that bulge of yours. I don't know if
Right.
that's
Right.
is that an official cup? Let's you need to sit
Right.
down next. I mean,
Exactly. It's like where's the where's the line drawn of notification and of the rules, and then if it is part of the rules, like you said earlier, Kel, it's like, well, now should we look at, or and not even should we need to look at updating the rules then, and letting the rules meet the times that we're in, and meeting the types of people that play the sport, because again, traditionally, wrestling was not at a high school level. Traditionally, it wasn't really something that a lot of minorities got into like that, because we were pointed in the direction of sports that they wanted us to take up, i.e., football, basketball, maybe some baseball, track and field. Like I know diving and swimming, like my family got into that, my cousins especially, and we weren't necessarily pointed in that direction when it was winter season. Right, soccer. We weren't necessarily pointed to soccer in high school when it was fall season. We were pointed to football, or even field hockey or tennis in the spring. Like, it was the traditional sports. So now that the sport is becoming more and more open, just like hockey even is, it's like, what rules and guidelines need to be adjusted, because they're written for a specific type of person, and that person oftentimes doesn't look like us at all.
Well, you got to look at the origins of wrestling, and when you look at the Greek origins, it's not our origin for two men to start rubbing on sweaty bodies, and we know back in the day the Greeks just love that,
Right.
get a sweaty male on male body, and they can just start grinding, and you can start on top, and then he can start on the bottom. Like, that's not. In Africa, they have a form of that, but it wasn't like it. They have it. We stand up. We don't start, with our butt in the air, and you come put your arm around me. So, and then have to wear the tightest thing. Like, this was, Macho Man Randy Savage in the building.
Oh yeah. Coming for you, brother.
Yeah. And all the Hulkamaniacs are gonna come.
Right. That's right. And you talk about Miss Elizabeth again. Oh yeah. Rest in peace to Macho Man, by the way. Rest in peace to Macho Man. I did like him. And snap it to a Slim Jim. You couldn't beat that campaign. Side note, that campaign was just fire. Snap into a Slim Jim. Oh,
hey,
yeah.
we thought that would get us to be amped like him. We didn't know it was the cocaine and every other drug he was taking.
Truth. There's definitely some truth to that one. There's some other stuff going on besides the Slim Jim. But again, like I say, rest in peace. Respect to Macho Man Randy Savage there. But back to the young man wrestling, and the roots of wrestling. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really something that was written and adapted for us, and so the things that we hold dear or care about or are part of our culture are written out of their rules, not because I don't even think it's on purpose, but because they were never considered. It was never thought that we would be a part of that. You know what I mean? Just like with the military, when they started changing their rules, don't ask, don't tell, allowing females in the military, allowing transgenders, gays, bisexuals, things like that. Like, it wasn't for a lack of consideration. It was for the thought. It wasn't even a thought that we would have, that would be a part of the culture. So people have to realize you have to update your rules and get with the times if you want to thrive and get the best out of people, right? It would be ashamed if that young man got canceled out because of a rule. And again, he went on to win. He won. Like,
right, yeah.
He was the better competitor with or without the hair. He was going to be the better competitor in that situation and come out with the W. And to have something like that stifled because of hair, because of an outdated rule, really, that, I feel like that takes away from the competitive nature of what the sport's supposed to be anyways. You know, you want the best out there. You want the competition to be heavy and high, and you can't do that when you're pretty much cutting people down for negligible things.
Yeah, and that he was going to wear a head covering. You know, if he wanted to be difficult, he could have came with a big old bandage on his head and be like, hey, this is my covering, and under the covering is a covering, and you know, but,
right. Right.
You know, and like and put some type of dye or blood. Like I'm bleeding too if I take this off, but I'm still good enough to wrestle though.
To go, yeah. You know, like it's crazy. It's crazy to think. You know, he was doing things to be within certain guidelines, anyways. But again, yeah, it just wasn't pointed out at weigh-ins, and you know, almost cost him a victory. And he had to make a tough decision. So I do want to say respect to him for, I think in my eyes, he looked at the bigger picture, and they're going to, you know, kind of fight this battle off mat. But he was like, you know, I'm going to take, you're going to get this temporary W, but I promise you, I'm going to get the W. You know what I mean? So
there you go.
Shout outs to him for definitely taking that stride and you know, picking his battle wisely. And I think it's even better that he got the W, and now, you know, like it would have been something else if he had, like, you know, caught an L after cutting the head. Like it could have been the Samson effect, but you know.
Yeah, for real.
But he caught that W, and I feel like that gives him an extra step up on, you know, making his case. Like, you know, I fought through humiliation. I fought through dehumanization, and you tried it. Like one of those, you tried it though. You definitely tried it though. But you know, ultimately I won. So like, what are we doing about this hair rule, or about this referee's call, judgment call? What are we going to do about this? Because I'm one of the top performing athletes. Look at my wins column real quick, you know.
Yeah, let's ask the audience, you know, if anyone's really concerned or has some information on this, please send it with us, share it with us, call the school, ask them. You know, somebody has to answer for this. I'm sure, you know, someone will tell if it's in the rules. Maybe he knew, him and his family knew,
right.
You know. But somebody, you know, update us and keep us posted so we can bring it back on, and maybe even have them on to, you know, talk about, you know, what inspired them to do their research.
For sure. So, yeah, that's our take.
So I think this is a good place to stop our dialogue for this episode and allow you, the listeners, to join the conversation and keep the dialogue going with us online.
You can do so by visiting our social media at Facebook, Diversified Game Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter, Game Diversified, online, diversifiedgame.com. In your life with the people around you, and or join our Patreon and get some nice perks for being involved.
If you found a nugget and are like today's episode, you might as well leave a review. And if you leave a review, you might as well share it. If you share it, you might as well subscribe. And as always, thanks for your support.
Thanks for getting in the game and listening to the Diversified Game Podcast with Kellen, Tyson, and AL. The #1 show pairing entrepreneurship with diverse and inclusive perspectives like wine and cheese, bagel and lox, fish and grits. Be sure to visit diversifiedgame.com for all the good stuff. Join in the conversation and discover more content.